Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Luke from Astro Awakening. It's been a hot minute, or should I say a month. At the moment, for me personally, I have a lot of Uranian energy mucking up my my structure and my routine and my daily life. And Uranian energy is about upheaval, transition, change, sudden, unexpected change also. So my schedule is volatile, to say the least. So I have every intention to be on here more regularly with more videos. And life comes and says, you're not going to be there. Now you need to be here. And I recently, through a family's birthday, I was away for a bit, and I pre-recorded a video, and I thought, I'll upload it onto YouTube while I was away, and I was on a cruise ship, and the internet was fucking shite, and I was in international waters, and I couldn't upload it. It just wouldn't do its thing. So long story short, that video now, because of the time that's passed, is no longer relevant. So I'm not sharing it. So this is another video. If you're watching, first of all, thank you. Welcome back. And this video is, I'm putting forth the case for tsunami, earthquake, tidal wave energy coming in hard and fast. Now, I want to say at the very beginning, this isn't a video to alarm people. Sorry, that's just so fucking rude, isn't it? Get off there. Do not disturb. I don't do these videos to scare people. I'm not trying to get clickbait and have people go, oh my God, what's going to happen? I just want awareness, preparedness, right? Awareness equals preparedness. And it's not that you have to go out and do anything or change your order of your life. It's just that you're aware. And what we do with astrology is we study cycles. We look at the cycles of the moon and the sun. We look at the cycles of the planets as they go through our life. And we look at these phases of life that sort of ebb and flow, the highs and the lows, the karmic sort of comings and goings. And as far as when it comes to prediction, it's a complex area of astrology that's not just about looking at what's happening in the sky. There's so many things that you have to consider that it's really beyond my professional scope. But I do like to just have a look at things. And when I see recurring patterns, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then I go back to particular points in time and I sort of look at, events that have happened, historical events that have happened. And I look at the astrology and go, what was happening then? I want to understand that from an astrological or an energetic perspective. So I've been doing that. I do that all the time. And now we also, with the software we're able to look at the cartography. So it's basically looking at where these planetary energies sort of coalesce, intersect, cross over, and run over parts of the world. And it's really interesting when you do that. So I'm putting forth the case for to be on a bit of an awareness or alert for potential either volcanic activity, whether it's above ground or below sea, or earthquake / tidal wave energy. And hopefully through this video, you can sort of see why I'm coming to this perspective. And again, I'm happy if nothing happens, but at the same time, when I feel like, how I feel in regards to my energetic levels and my awareness and my intuition, I feel like that there is this eerie sort of sense that we're about to go through a bit of a shift of energy. So that's just my own awareness and feeling, and also people that I look up to and mentors and people that I follow online all over the world are just sort of feeling the same. Something seems a little bit like And then when we look at the astrology and we look at like big planets like Jupiter's ingress, Pluto's ingress into Aquarius, Jupiter's ingress shortly into Taurus. The nodal axis is going to shift. There's a lot of energy coming to light. And at the moment also we have Saturn in Pisces, which is the lord of time and karma in the sign of endings and undoings and karmic releasings. And it's making a long trine to the south node in Scorpio. And the trine is a free flow of energy. So it's like, okay, well, there's a lot of karmic releasing going on. So as karmic energy is released, let go, right? Often that can come up into manifestation for that process of change to take place. when things manifest on the physical plane, they've already manifested on all of the other levels of, reality that are non-physical. The physical reality is the final place, the final showdown. It's the final countdown. So, without further ado, this isn't going to be one of those videos like the Pluto one where there's going to be lots of videos, because I really don't have the time at the moment because life's hectic, and I'm busy. There's a lot of readings and a lot of personal stuff going on as well. So I'm just going with it, going with the flow. So this video, I'm going to just use my screen share. Not going to have fancy graphics. Might put a little thing at the start and the end. That is it. So I can get it out. Otherwise, it takes me too long to edit. So here we go. This is the lunar eclipse that we're having on the 5th May. Now 5th of May here for Australian Eastern Standard Time. 14 degrees of Taurus Scorpio. So it's a full moon in Scorpio. The south node, right? So it's a lunar eclipse because the lunation is happening within close proximity to the node. And we have an eclipse whenever that happens, whether it's a new moon, we have a solar eclipse, a full moon, we have a lunar eclipse. Lunar eclipse, south node. And we've also got Uranian energy in the mix. We've also got this Pluto energy in the mix. We've also got this Chiron energy in the mix, which is very interesting. So the interesting thing about the different aspects of Earth element, right? We've got cardinal, fixed, and mutable. Cardinal, right? The best way to represent cardinal Earth is by the mountain, because it's pushed up into a point and it's like a peak, right? So it's cardinal is in a particular direction. Fixed Earth is like the fertile land, right? That we would toil in order to bring forth, creation. And then we have mutable Earth, which is like the sand of the beach, the moving of the tides and, the erosion and that type of thing. And these are the different aspects of this element within our physical reality. We'll come back to this fixed element here, like all this Taurus energy, especially with Uranus in Taurus, and Uranus energy somewhat in the mix with this particular full moon. But what I'm interested in is this nodal position, south node in Scorpio, north node in Taurus. And the last time that the nodes were in this location was just at the Boxing Day tsunami of 2004. So let's take a look at the chart for that. Boxing Day tsunami 2004. I've set it for Banda Aceh. So it was an underground earthquake that happened off the tip of the island of Sumatra, and which caused the earthquake, obviously, the tsunami that happened on that day, which we all memorably remember, as like, I think 230,000 people perished in 14 different countries. Like, horrific time. I bet you all can remember where you were. The funny thing about that particular time is that in September of 2003, I was in Thailand, traveling around that area, Phuket, which was really interesting. So, I'd come back to Australia, and by Boxing Day of 2004, actually, I lie. I wasn't there in 2003. I was there in 2004, September of 2004, because this happened. The Boxing Day tsunami was the same year. But only months earlier, I was in that particular area. And I bet everyone's got a story of personal connection to that in some way, in shape or form or other. But the interesting thing about this is the south node's in Scorpio, the north node's in Taurus. So the nodal energy is in pretty much the same location. Now, this Boxing Day tsunami happened right on the full moon, pretty much like within hours of a full moon. Even though the moon was still in Gemini, this full moon would have been a Cancer full moon not long after. Cardinal water, cardinal earth. And what was it? It was an earthquake. If we think about earthquake, we've got the tectonic plates, if we can believe science, which, no reason not to in this particular instance. We've got either the shifting together or one shifting against the other, right? And this is moving, and whether it's like that, or whether it's like that, I think depends on the type of earthquake that we experience. But either way, it's the earth moving in a particular direction, cardinal earth. right? It's Earth moving in a direction. So this event happened with the sun in Capricorn, cardinal Earth, and around the full moon time. Now, even though it wasn't an eclipse, because this lunation is happening way away from the nodes, so it wasn't an eclipse. But the interesting thing about it is this. It was in alignment to the eclipse, into the nodes, right? And in particular, this full moon would have been very close to a trine to the south node, which is really interesting. So we have this releasing of energy on a full moon, right? The new moon is the seed, it's the intention, it's the beginning, it's the initiation. The full moon is the fruition, the releasing of that energy. So when we have a full moon, we're going to get that release of energy. When we have a full moon on an eclipse, right, nodal full moon, we have a release of the normal energy we would on a normal full moon, but we also have the karmic aspect of this. Karmic energy, it's being released. It's going to be released. Karmic is that associated to our collective patterns of cause and effect, right? So it's like this cycle of energy. And when you have an eclipse, you have a big loading of karmic energy that's coming forth to be released. And personally, that can play out and with like fucking things happen unexpectedly in life that bring about a particular transition and change based on the karmic relationship to whatever that is for you. So it can be chaotic and unexpected and like quite, you know, shocking, because it's almost like all of the full moon, new moon periods of times of this ebbing and flowing hasn't produced the type of shift or change that needs to take place. So there's a karmic unloading, and then all of a sudden there's a big release of energy and the change happens. So the best thing to do in your personal life when this is sort of happening is be open, flexible, and move with the times. And like when things change, it's go, okay, this is the change that is required. There's an aspect of fate, if you like, intertwined in these types of eclipses, because we're dealing with the nodes. So we're dealing with this releasing of energy so that we can move on and let go. And like I said before, you know, like when things manifest in the physical plane, that's the final showdown, right? This has already taken place on other levels of, you know, the higher planes of the spirit and the mental planes, the etheric planes, the emotional planes, before it actually manifests in the physical. So when we have a lunation like this one on the Boxing Day tsunami, right on this full moon, you know, you have this sort of karmic releasing of energy. The interesting aspect here as well, which is quite interesting, is the Saturn Chiron opposition. And if we are to take a look, let me see if it'll let me do it. It will, but I'm going to have to stop that. Then I have to reshare this one. Okay. So the earthquake took place over here in this location. So, right, this is the Indonesian island, and I think this is the island of Sumatra, and I think it was Banda Aceh. It's either along this little bit or this little tip here, but it was somewhere in this location. If you look at that Chiron Saturn, that's the Saturn setting line and the culminating or rising line of Chiron as they sort of intertwined together in this opposition. It's right in that same location, which is really interesting to sort of look at. And again, it's not necessarily, oh, that's the predictive tool that we're going to use to then, you know, superimpose onto this current situation, but it's just like, okay, what energy was crossing in that particular area was this very tense opposition between Saturn in cardinal water and Chiron in cardinal earth. So again, cardinal energy, it's big shifting of energy, remember? And we had literally like cardinal water, which was, it was a big tsunami as a result of this shifting energy. So let's come back to where we are now. Share this. So let's take a look back at the current eclipse that we're having. Lunar eclipse. So in this particular case, we have the full moon in Scorpio, the same sign as the lunar south node. On the Boxing Day tsunami, we had a trine to the south node. It was at 0 degrees of Scorpio. Now it's at 4 degrees. this full moon is going to actually pass through this nodal that point, really activating this energy as this full moon takes place. The interesting thing to note on the Boxing Day tsunami, it was before the actual culminating point, or the actual exact opposition of the full moon. So it's really, with astrology, you're more looking at like time periods rather than specific moments. So what we do is we open up a broad time period, and then we start to like build in towards more of a specific time period, so we can get narrower and narrower pounds. But you know, with regards to the solar eclipse we had a couple of weeks ago, with regards to Pluto's transition into Aquarius, and also the building intensity of Jupiter moving towards Taurus, and really activating those 0 degrees of Aquarius, Taurus, Leo, and Scorpio. So we're in this window of, you know, the types of big Jupiterian, right, shifts and changes to the fixed Earth element, right? But also from this Plutonian perspective, it's like this almost like total transformation, total shift. And that Pluto is going to really bring a lot of the unexpressed energy to the surface. And we're dealing with the Scorpio South Node. Scorpio's fixed water, but Scorpio deals in the layer below the surface level, right? A lot of people spend most of their life living in that transactional aspect of reality. Hi, how was your day? Good. What was, well, that was right. Oh, look at the funny things on TV, and distracting themselves, keeping in that state of comfort, which is that crusty layer on the top of where vast majority of people spend most of their time. Unless you've got a lot of Scorpio energy. For me, I have Jupiter in the 8th house in Cancer. So I'm like, I live in that other bit. I'm not really interested in that crusty layer. I've lived that reality. I'm more interested in the depth. I want the nitty gritty. I want the details. I want to get to the bottom of things. That's what Scorpio energy is about. It's depth. So you bring in this Pluto, right? This power of transformation, of this desire for change coming through this collective energy of humanity through Aquarius. It's like, that's the energy that I'm feeling of this, like, there's this sense of change coming, right? It's the type of change that we're unsure of, what, like, we're not sure how it's going to play out, but we can all sense on a level that this world, when we look at it, what's going on here? We've lost our way. You know, we've valued the wrong aspects. We're so caught up in this, you know, identity politics and all this bollocks. So we're missing the actual, you know, like the doomsday clock says 11:59, right? It's like, what the fuck's going on in the world? And we're all arguing over whether a fucking a man can be legally a fucking woman. Like, what? Right? It's just what the fuck, you know? So when it's like that, I'm like, oh, this isn't real, this isn't reality, this isn't right. What the hell is this? This is a lot of the flotsam that's come to the surface to be purged, but we shouldn't be focusing on that. We've got to get to what's real and what's deeper and what's underneath it. And this eclipse is about the liberation of that energy. So, you know, interesting. Scorpio energy, it's deep. It's deep. And Saturn, right, in Pisces, Saturn, the lord of time and karma, the planet of death in one aspect, in the sign of the karmic endings, the transcendence, it's the releasing, it's letting go, it's surrender, in this big trine to the South Node. And Saturn is ruling over this Pluto energy because Saturn rules Aquarius. Keep up with me, keep up, people, right? Saturn's the ruler of Aquarius. So is Uranus. They both rule Aquarius. So you've got this karmic energy that's being released and let go of, this undoing, that's also somehow connected into this Pluto in Aquarius energy, right? So there's a lot of karma energy. So it's like, right, what sort of karma have we set in motion based on how disconnected we've become? Well, look at the world. So change needs to come. And COVID was an opportunity for that change to happen. But I think a lot of people took that opportunity and they did what they needed to do to make the changes. And they're now in a better place than they were pre-COVID. but a lot of people chose not to, chose a particular pathway to avoid the very thing that they had to do to change. And that was en masse. So now it's sort of like this Uranian energy is like, well, you know what? Now it's going to be sudden, unexpected, and unpredictable. Now it's going to be volatile. And now we come into the element of fixed earth. And what I think the potential is volcanic energy, not necessarily earthquake energy. All right. I look at earthquake as cardinal earth. If we had a dust storm, if we had major erosion or a landslip, I'd be looking to the cardinal expression of the mutable expression, Virgo energy, right? Because mutable is shifting, it's changing, it's adaptable, it's versatile, it's in motion, in all different, it's just really moving, right? So quicksand type energy. And cardinal is the mountain, right? But it's also, I feel it's like the sudden shifting of the earth. Well, fixed earth, it's rock solid. It's the most stable. So when energy is liberated in fixed earth, what do you think happens? Right? What I think happens is it's just a complete blowing up of that. It's a release. So it's just that the fixed earth can't sustain it, right? If you've got a lot of fixed earth element in your chart, or if you've got a lot of fixed sign energy in your personal chart, you may be the type of person very resistant to change, and change could often come about through this process of like fucking crisis. Like it has to get to a point where that energy is liberated and the change takes place. So this is Taurus, right? This is that fixed earth. It's the most fixed, the most stable, the most solid out of all of the elements. But we've got this right? We've got this lunar eclipse happening. We've got Pluto squaring it. We've got Uranus moving through it. We haven't had the full expression of Uranus in Taurus yet. This big shift of this fixed element. We could look to the monetary system, finance, wealth, money in general, the stock exchange, all that sort of thing, as an area that through Uranus's transition through Taurus, we could expect a lot of upheaval and change and liberation, and perhaps some new futuristic process to come through. And again, we still haven't had that energy either. So this isn't to say it's going to happen. This is just opening up the awareness to suggest that we're in a period of time where the likelihood of these things energetically are very present. So this video is about giving you the awareness, right? To make you aware so that you can prepare whatever way you need to prepare. Maybe preparedness for you is you go about your day with just the knowledge of like, expect the unexpected, Where is this energy going to play out? Let's take a look. Give me a second. Your patience is appreciated. So right, May. This is the lunar eclipse. Now, interesting to note that Saturn's running through the top here. And where are we? We'll zoom in a little bit. That the solar eclipse a couple of weeks ago really activated this area through here, through micro-Indonesia, Indonesia, and Philippines, and that area. We've got the Saturn line running through there now. But we also do have a lot of energy coming across this area of New Zealand. So the two areas that I would be sort of looking at in relation to potential locations for this type of geological shift basing on a release of karmic energy would be this area of Indonesia and, Philippine area, right? And also the New Zealand area. And we've got a lot of volatility over in the New Zealand area with regards to earthquakes. And I know that on the North Island, they've got, the bubbling mud and that. I can't remember what it's called. You New Zealanders on the channel will be able to correct me, but you know what I'm talking about. So those geographically, I would look at as the areas where I'd be interested. And then you've got Africa. So we've got the Sun-Moon line with Uranus line running through Africa, through parts of Greece also. So, you know, and then I know just off Greece here, we've got Italy, and Italy has a lot of like volcanic energy and a lot of active volcanic energy. So those three locations for me would be the area just to be aware and go, okay, all right. If you're in those locations, then the best thing to do if you're in those locations would be to come really into your heart and really into the moment and stay out of your brain and your mind and yesterday and tomorrow thinking, and just be present. Because I'll tell you what, nature should, if, when, or whatever occur, right? Maybe it won't. Just saying, preparedness is awareness is preparedness. Nature will let you know. If all of a sudden where you are, all of the birds go quiet, or they all of a sudden take flight and disappear, or all sorts of funny things start happening and animals start, you know, dogs start barking, and you're like, what? That would be your indication that they're sensing something before you're sensing that something, and that you need to make sure that you are vigilant for that type of thing. And for anyone all over the world, it's a really good thing to do, is once you're in your body and you're connected into the present moment and you're aware of nature, nature will always reveal, because it's tuned into those subtle unseen frequencies that we can't perceive generally with our physical senses. So animals, especially birds, that birds live in the air realm, okay? And the air realm is where that medium of sound occurs. And sound waves, when they're at certain levels and frequencies, can no longer be heard with the ear, but they are felt. And because the birds live in that realm, they pick up that energy. So they're really, really tuned in to that frequency and that shift. And all of a sudden, if the birds start go wild, or if they disappear, I'd be like, right, okay, what's happening? Am I in a safe location? Am I outside of a building? Am I near the ocean? Like, do I need to just have my wits about me? I'll give you a quick little short story to end this video with, and I appreciate any of your feedback and your comments. And if you've got any research, or if you've had any intuition, or if you've come across information that you might find useful and valuable to share, by all means do so. And I'll create videos based on those comments. So we're definitely in a peak period of like the beginning of a lot of change. And I feel like 23, 24, 25, 26 years are going to be massive. So we're in a 7 year, we're moving to an 8, then a 9, right? 7, 8, 9, 7, 8, then 9. And then we move into a 0 or 1 year again. So we start this whole cycle. So 2026, I think, is a 0 year, or a 1 year. So one time I'd done some ritual work, I'd done some invocation and personal spiritual stuff that I'd done. And the next day I was working with my brother at the time and just helping him. He was a builder and I was doing some laboring. And the next day we were working on this house. It was on the side of a hill, and we were working under the house. There was height and room, and we were building some lofty areas underneath the, you know, additional rooms for this particular guy. And it was in this really thick bush area with a lot of birds and everything around. And on this particular day, about 6 o'clock in the morning, we arrived and we walked down underneath the house, and the birds in the trees were going crazy. Like, it was almost unbearable, the noise. It was so loud. And I was like, I said to my brother, what's with the birds? He's like, I don't know, man. It's crazy. Like, they're just screaming. It's like, whoa, like that. Anyway, he went back up to the ute to get some tools, and I walked further in underneath the house. And as I did, I looked up like this, and not 2 meters in front of me on a beam was a barn owl, a white barn owl, like a big ass barn owl. And it was sitting there looking away from me. And as I saw it, it, you know, obviously sensed me, and it turned like this and just looked at me. And we had this moment where we just looked at each other like that. And it sort of looked through me. And I froze. And then what seemed like 10 minutes, which was probably only like 3 seconds, it just lifted itself off effortlessly and took off. And from under the house where it was, it took off in through the valley of trees and took off. Every single bird took off after it and flew away. Like, every bird flew away. And like that, it was dead silent. And I was just like, and here's the thing, not 2 or 3 days before this ritual that I'd done, I'd been listening to a podcast of a guy online talking about owl encounters and how owls turn up. It's a spirit animal turning up, or it's an ancestor, or it's a spirit guide turning up at specific moments, particular times for people in their life. Sometimes it was through crisis or near-death situations. Other times it was through spiritual awakenings. And yeah, I'm standing there frozen. My brother come down and he's like, what the fuck's going on? What's so quiet? I said, man, you never believe what just happened. And ever since then, I have a bit of a kinship with owls. I did some ayahuasca journeying, and I actually turned into an owl during one of the journeys. And I asked the shaman, he's like, oh, well, that's obviously your spirit animal. So that's why I have the owl tattoo on me. But anyway, that was just nature, right? The birds were just wild. And there was a reason, there was a valid reason for that, because there was some big fucking barn owl there. And whether they were somehow spiritually connected to that, or whether they were just like, oh, this bird's a threat and doesn't belong here, I don't know. So if you're in one of those locations that I've said, and even if you're anywhere for the next period of time, it's a really good idea. Fixed Earth Taurus season, come into the body, come into the now, come into the central experience. Experience life through the 5 senses: sight, hearing, touch, sound, and smell. When you engage with the physical sensory experience of reality, you do that through the body, because the body has those senses, and you're doing it in the present moment. And when you're anchored to that, you're in that state of pure awareness, and you'll be able to perceive more easily and readily what to do in certain situations. And also you're ready to receive the type of intuitive guidance that's going to be right for you, to put you in the position to lead you towards the direction you need to be with regards to whatever happens. And it's a funky period of time. We would be ignorant and head in the sand if we weren't thinking that, okay, it's time to just be aware. From a political perspective, from a geopolitical perspective, from a world war perspective, from an economic perspective, from a fucking societal collapse perspective, it's red alert time. Like, be aware. If you're going to do any preparation, you want to prepare for at least 3 days of any particular thing. So imagine that there was some sort of crisis, a meltdown, a breakdown, the grid going down, the shops shutting off, the banks doing a run, some volcanic going off, whatever, right? Doesn't matter what the event is. What you want to do is you want to be able to survive for 3 days minimum. 3 days worth of food and water, and the ability to communicate with those ones that you're disconnected from that are important to you. So maybe it's just having a conversation and say, hey, you know, with your family and your friends, your community, if in the event of something happening and we can't communicate, do we have a safe house? Do we have a way in which we're going to be able to connect? Where should we meet, type thing? Have those types of conversations. We could be sitting here in 6 years from now doing the same thing, and there's no skin off your nose. But if you don't, and the shit hits the fan, you're going to fucking wish you did. So I would say it's a good time to just have those conversations. I'm having them with my family, my community, my loved ones. So I'm just saying, for you guys, preparedness, use the awareness to have preparedness, and expect the unexpected. The best place to be in the unexpected is in that place of flexibility, not rigid, right? The more rigid and hung on and stuck you are, the more volatile that expression of energy can be when it liberates. So that's my video. Thank you for your support. I'm sorry for my my absence here. I would like to say that I'd like to be on here more regularly, but it's challenging because I've got work commitments. I'm on the social media platforms with regards to connecting to, you know, clients and stuff like that. So personal stuff going on as well. It's busy. So I just go with the flow at the moment. So I'll be back when I can. In the meantime, peace out. Thanks for your support. Hit the button, share the button, do the things, send a comment, all the things. Much love. Peace out. See you guys.